Fear is something that everyone deals with. I don't care if you are an entrepreneur, business owner, investor, stay-at-home parent, employee, everyone comes into contact with fear, their own fear, other people's fears about what they're choosing to do with their lives. And if you are a person who thinks that fear is something to run from, something that is paralyzing, something that is holding you back, I'm here to tell you that there is another perspective. You can absolutely see fear in a completely different light and use it as your guide. Yes, not many people will tell you to be guided by your fear, but I will. And I have a new masterclass all about fear. Check out the information for it in the show notes. I'm telling you, this will shift so many things for you as you move forward in your life. It is a lesson that you can come back to again and again and again, and a process that you can use time and time again throughout the rest of your life. So you can find the link about that masterclass in the show notes, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Okay, so I am coming in hot with this episode. And what do I mean by that? I mean, I've gone through so many emotions in what I'm about to speak on. And it's anything to do with parenting, which, spoiler alert, that's what this episode is about. Anything to do with parenting can absolutely be triggering. And this one was for me. So I'm going to share. And I would love to hear your thoughts about it towards the end of the episode. But for now, welcome back to the Living a Life Well Fed podcast with me, Ariana Youmans Keenahan, Director of Well Fed Photography. I'm so happy to have you here. And I'm just going to jump right in. So a wonderful dear friend of mine, Gaby Abrams, who I love and who's actually been on the show twice before, wrote an article called 4 Most Damaging Things Your Parent Might Have Done to You as a Child. Which already is like juicy. You know, you want to get in there, you want to read, you want to figure out what these things were and how you can avoid them as well if you're also a parent like me. So I jumped in and I read this article. And just for a bit of context, Gaby is a subconscious expert. She helps other female entrepreneurs with things like visibility blocks, money blocks, success blocks, and imposter syndrome. And in fact, I have used her RTT bundle and I absolutely love it. I'll include the link in the show notes if you'd like to enjoy it for yourself. But she has a really interesting take because she's constantly regressing her clients back to being children and the trauma, either big T trauma or little T trauma that they experienced growing up and how that is affecting them as entrepreneurs and areas where they're being held back. So obviously I was excited to read this and I'm going through and I'm reading it and I'm like, check, like printification. Yes, absolutely experienced that, can absolutely identify with that. And then after kind of like checking the box for the first 2, I think the third one was the one that really stopped me in my tracks. And that was parenting consistently. And I have a lot of thoughts on this, which I'm going to share with you, but also as someone who has ADHD, and I didn't discover that until last year, but with ADHD, consistency can be something that is very challenging for me. Now, I've built an incredible business with exceptional service and high quality products, and that I've been able to make consistent. But when it comes to more of the like humanness of things like parenting, I find that there is so much more space for inconsistency, even down to like eating meals at a specific time or eating meals together. Like for me as a parent with ADHD, that is a challenge. Consistency is a challenge. And probably one of the first things I felt when I was reading this article was just pure inadequacy. I just felt like there's no way I'm ever going to live up to being a consistent parent. I do not want to harm my children, but I also know that for me, this is a massive challenge. And I think if I had read this years ago, I would have just said, she's the expert and I'm going to do my best to try to be consistent and I'll find someone who can help me be consistent. But the me that no longer has everyone else be the expert on her life, except for me, took time to really sit with this and to explore this and be curious about why this brought up such strong feelings for me. And what I realized is that I had to shift out of that ego-based wounding of feeling inadequate. And I know that that's an ego-based wounding because nothing that has to do with soul me is ever going to feel inadequate. Whenever I shift into my soul and connect with my soul, that's where there's spaciousness of play and curiosity and loving all of who I am. So that's where I had to go. First, I felt that inadequacy and the fear and the overwhelm of feeling like I was never going to live up to being a consistent parent. And then when I moved into that spaciousness and that playfulness, I realized I don't actually want to parent consistently. Like, do I want my children to know that I love them every single day? Absolutely. Do I want them to always know that without question? 100%. Do I want them to always know that I will repair the relationship in times where I've damaged it in some way, like losing my temper or getting frustrated? Absolutely. Like, they know they can depend on me for those things. And so there's like an overarching consistency for things like that. But I realized that actually there's so much beauty in the inconsistency, and there's so many wonderful lessons and wonderful possibilities when it comes to inconsistency. So I wanted to share it with you. And I hope that if you are a parent who also feels so inconsistent, that you will be able to feel a bit better about your approach to parenting. And for people who honor consistency and they feel like they're very consistent, I hope this will open up and provide food for thought about a different way so that we can stop villainizing each other and we can stop pointing fingers and saying that someone else is doing it the wrong way and someone else is doing it the right way, because that's not really the point, right? And I don't think Gaby's point in writing that article was ever to say that someone who parents inconsistently is going to harm their child. Not at all. And in fact, in the article, which I will link in the show notes, she does talk about how consistency doesn't have to be rigid, but it is helpful for our children to know what to expect from us. So here's my take on parenting and inconsistency. I don't want to parent consistently. I want to continue to grow, change, make adjustments, integrate, implement, apologize, have the freedom to explore different ways of doing things, find what works for us again and again and again, and continue to have and nourish a space where I and everyone in our family continually know that they have the freedom to grow, change, expand, listen to their inner wisdom, become more of themselves, and express the moreness of who they have become. So no, like, I don't want to parent or do life, for that matter, consistently. And I feel like that's a really, really beautiful thing. I feel like if we approach life with this feeling of fluidity rather than rigidity, like, she was saying, you don't have to be rigid about things. I think when we approach things with fluidity, we all win. And it actually is wonderful for all of us. So while we absolutely try to prepare our children for what's coming next, and we absolutely try to have them feel supported and safe, I also want them to feel supported and safe in being who they are and exploring that and playing and going even deeper into that and learning the lessons that are appropriate for them and for who they're meant to be. And I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited that I took the time to get curious and be playful myself so that I could have these realizations. And I'm so glad I've built up more of a self-trust in who I am. And I've taken responsibility for my own life and my own experiences so that when I come across articles or, those top tip, like parenting top tips or podcast episodes or whatever it may be, whether it's about parenting or entrepreneurship, I'm so glad that I get to take that information. I get to consider it and I get to make my own decisions about what will be relevant for me and for my life. And I encourage you to do the same. So whether it's this podcast or another podcast or articles that you come across, I really highly encourage you to do the same. It's absolutely okay to take that responsibility for your life, for you to make the rules for your life. And I just love this conversation because of that, because there's so much in it. It's so much more than just whether you're going to parent consistently or not. It's the lesson of how do I take what I read and either apply it or release it and let it go? What can I learn from considering another side? What can I learn from seeing that there is a lot of gray areas in everything? And yeah, I think it's so powerful to talk about these things. So I'm happy to be able to do this in this episode. And I know that can scare people too, actually. Like, taking that responsibility can scare people, but it is truly, I have to say, when you get used to the responsibility, when you practice it over and over again and you you start to see the fruits of that, that's when you really get to feel free. That's when freedom really gets to seep into every pore of your being, because you're choosing it. You're choosing what to allow into your life or not. So it may seem unusual if you've never thought about it this way, but for now, I'm going to crown myself the queen of inconsistency, and I'm going to feel at peace about that. And I'm going to love the flexibility and freedom of that. And I'm going to love finally allowing myself to be free enough to love and embrace this about me, and to not make it wrong, but to fully integrate it and see it as a strength and as a guiding principle from which I can view my life and how I approach my life. And I'd really love to hear your thoughts on this episode. I really love to hear what came up for you. And again, like, parenting can be such a triggering conversation altogether. So if you've had different ahas from this episode, if maybe there was some triggering that came up within you, I'd love to hear about it. Please screenshot this episode and tag us at Well-Fed Photography. And you can tag Gaby too. She's at Gaby.Abrams. I'll double check that, but I can include it in the show notes too, because I'm sure she would love to see what your ahas are. And like I said, I will include the original article so you can have that for context. I will also include her RTT bundle. And yeah, I just cannot wait to hear what you get out of this episode. And if you're on our newsletter and you got this via email, hit reply. Let us know what you thought via email. I love hearing from you, and I hope you have the most wonderful day. All the best. Bye-bye. Hey, have you been looking for the perfect gift for a family member or a friend, but you just cannot seem to find the one? Why not check out our Products We Love page located in the resources section of our website, wellfedphotography.com. I'll also leave a link in the show notes so that you can just click on it and find it easily. We have everything from self-care items to household items, Montessori play, books. We've even covered potty training. So you may find something there that you love for yourself as well. We hope you enjoy, and we'll be back with more product recommendations as the show goes on.